Yo, what's going on, guys? In today's video I want to show an updated version of my charge calling Moto, which is a build I was able to use to reach level 100 on EU, which, to be honest, this region is the worst out of the 3 regions, but still pretty good accomplishment. But also on top of that, I was able to be first charge calling Moto in all of the regions, so that's also pretty good. So in terms of the DPS, right now I'm dealing around 2 billion DPS probably, because obviously I can't say how much exactly I am dealing because target dummy caps at 1 billion, but judging by how fast I was killing bosses, I assume I have probably around 2 billion. So right now let me actually show you how my character is doing during map and during boss encounters. So let's start with the map. So for mapping, I am actually swapping my relics into movement speed, so I'm moving much faster. I'm gonna talk about that a bit later, and I'm also swapping this trait because I think this one is actually a bit smoother in terms of sustaining your overload. So this is actually nice for mapping, but you can see how much faster I am when I'm using these relics. So let's actually do the tier 8 map, because I think this build excels extremely well in doing harder content. So let's do a tier 8 because we have such a good DPS and also insane defenses, but unfortunately we are not super fast. So as you can see with this relic, my movement speed is pretty good, which kind of fixes the mobility issue, but it's still not like crazy fast. Definitely if you are looking for a super fast build, I would suggest playing maybe Erika or Rehan, so definitely not this build. But it still can be pretty fast if you are gonna focus on relics and memories with movement speed. Some people also are going for a leap attack with additional attack speed, so you can also move a bit faster, and also some people go for cooldown recovery speed with blink to fix their mobility issues. But for me, movement speed worked the best so far. And here let's look at the map boss, and it is that. And I actually even did my rotation incorrectly. Let's also do the Dark Surge. And this build is extremely good in like a static content, where you can just sit and wait for monsters to die, don't have to do anything. But as you can see, it is actually pretty laggy. So if you don't want a laggy build, don't play this one, because if you start summoning a lot of minions, then your game starts to lag a lot. So now let me show you a boss. So let's actually do the tier 8 Watcher. I don't want to do anything harder, because to be honest, a lot of endgame bosses in this game have immunity phases, so showing them during the video would take too long in my opinion. So let's just do tier 8 Watcher. So first I'm gonna stack my scraps and then just go to boss and kill it. Basically it. So that was tier 8. And also, as you could see, I actually took damage from the lightning ball and I didn't die, so I have a pretty good survivability. So let's go back, and I actually didn't even swap from my mapping to bossing setup. I forgot about that. With the other hero relics and with this trait, I would actually kill the boss even faster. Okay, so now let's talk about the build. So how does it work? What did I change? And so on. So first of all, in case you don't know, this build scales with minion damage and with minion life. So in terms of the hero relics, you want to focus on both of these stats. You want to start with minion damage and minion life. Eventually, you want to move on with something like this, around 10% additional self-destruct damage, and your percentage life is added to base life of minions, because then it's also going to be multiplied by increases to minion life, and this is a very good stat. Obviously, if you can't get both of them on one, just go for one of them and maybe some minion damage or minion life. Both of them, in my opinion, are around the same damage. Maybe additional self-destruct damage is a little bit better, but yeah, definitely would try to get both of them. So this is these. I am using 3 of these for the bosses, but when I am doing mapping, I am using 3 of them with 20% minion, not minion, 20% your movement speed, and just some other random stats. So for this one, minions have Focus Blessing, which is also decent. It gives 8% double damage, and the other one has minion max life, and this one has the best mod, which is as life to, your life to minion life. So just get another random damage mod. If you have enough damage already to clear the maps, I would just suggest going for movement speed. But also the reason why I am moving so fast is because I am using this relic, which increases the effect of hero memories depending on where they are, in which engram slots they are put in. So for every even empty even slot, and yes, this locked one also count. For every even, you get increased effect for the odd one, and for every odd one, you get increased effect for the even one. So I get a lot of increased effect for these relics, but this one is very expensive. This is actually my recent upgrade, so definitely save that for later. Until you can afford that, just use some other one that just gives you additional damage or minion life, and that's pretty much it. Okay, so that's hero relics and memories. Let's now look at the gear. So in terms of gear, my first big upgrade that I definitely focused on was the Warden's Breastplate, because it just allows you to craft gear like that with critical strike damage, critical strike rating here. Actually, I'm using this base, not the one that gives minion critical strike rating, I think around 40%, because that one is int and this one is armor, so I just want to stack a bit more armor, so that's why I went for this one, even though it gives me a little bit less damage. And yeah, on the helmet, I'm just focusing on minion life, my max life, because my life is transferred to minions thanks to the memories, so I want to stack as much life as possible, so I'm using flat and percentage life, and just additional resist and critical strike damage. On chest, pretty much the same thing, minion life, minion damage, your max life, resistances, critical strike rating, gloves, same thing. Unfortunately on gloves there is not that many damage mods for minions, so I just went for life regen, resist, and critical strike damage. Rings are actually my worst slots. I still haven't upgraded them, but as of right now, just critical strike rating, life, minion damage, resist, critical strike rating, and the same thing here. Now for the uniques, except for Warden's Breastplate, I'm also using Mind Infusion for +1 synthetic troop quantity and +1 minion, and it also gives you a ton of armor and a little bit of life, which scales minions damage a little bit further. So we are basically like a life stacker build. You don't want to overstack your life by too much, but still, more life you have, more damage minions are gonna do, because more life they are gonna have. Next unique item is the Infinity Belt. So on this belt, these mods don't matter. Obviously, you want things like additional life, maybe resist, maybe minion damage, maybe cooldown recovery, or things like that. Like literally anything useful for your build, just get it here. But the most important thing is you want to get isomorphic arms or mighty guard. One of these two, because this way you're gonna be able to use both of them. If you get isomorphic arms, you're gonna use the talent that gives you mighty guard. If you get one with mighty guard, you're gonna use a talent that gives isomorphic arms. And thanks to that, modifiers on your weapon are gonna apply to minion. And this is the weapon I crafted. Obviously, this is pretty expensive craft, but it's definitely worth it. So I crafted just minion damage, minion max life, +3 minion skill level, critical strike damage, which actually is applied to minions thanks to the isomorphic arms, and also thanks to the Warden's Breastplate. So it actually gives around 200 critical strike damage. 30% chance to deal double damage and 20% chance to deal double damage for a minion, which is 50%. So I actually, when you look at my minions, I have 100% chance to deal double damage with them, which to be honest is probably overkill. I am probably gonna remove one of them. It's just I didn't have that much currency when I was crafting this, so I just settled on this mod. Eventually I'm gonna recraft it. Probably I'm gonna go for +5 to main hand weapon instead of minion max life, and also for the minion critical strike rating instead of chance to deal double damage, but that's gonna happen later. So that's basically all in terms of my gear. Now let's look over the skills. So for skills, I'm using Summon Spider Tanks, critical strike damage, critical strike rating, mechanical modification obviously for pretty much double damage. Steamroll and Tendon Slicer actually increase damage or explosion, even though we are using Spider Tanks. And by the way, we are using Spider Tanks because they have actually more life than the guards. For some reason, even though you would think that guards have more life than spiders, they actually have less, so Spider Tanks are better. And they actually scale with basically like attack and melee supports, so the explosion part at least. So we are going for Tendon Slicer for chance to ignore armor and physical damage, and Steamroll for the additional damage, and we actually don't even get that much negative effect from reduced attack speed. And I'm using critical strike rating because I'm lacking crit, but once I am gonna craft weapon with critical strike rating, I'm probably gonna be able to remove that and go for something like minion damage or minion life. I'm not sure yet. And on the second one, same setup, but instead of Tendon Slicer, I am using Mark, because this not only is gonna give 30% increased damage to this minion, but also thanks to the Mark debuff, monster is gonna take increased critical strike damage from both this minion and this one. So this part is only applied to this link, but this part is being applied to all of the minions. So that's what I'm using as of right now. And for my remaining skills, I am using a Compound Potion for additional heal, and here are the supports. Blink for a bit more mobility, and Protection Field for defenses. If you want to use Leap Attack, I probably would remove Compound Potion. I would keep the other ones. For my auras, I don't need Restrain. I actually did drop it, and I'm just leveling it. Maybe I'm gonna sell it, maybe I'm gonna use it, I don't know. For now, I just use it here. I'm using Rejuvenation with Seal Conversion to have some additional regen, because I actually have a pretty good amount of life, so I think having a bit better recovery than just like how much, 400 more life, I think it is worth it to spend that much life for additional regen. Precise Fearless with Magical Force Source. To be honest, Precise one doesn't give us too much because it only increases our attack speed, and the Precise Weapon Amplification, same thing. Chance to Paralysis, don't really benefit from that because we have already paralysis on the weapon. So thanks to Isomorphic Arms, we are paralyzing enemies anyway. But I, to be honest, just dropped them. So that's why I'm using them. That's pretty much it. I wouldn't focus too much on upgrading them early on. And the last aura is Swiftness, just for some additional mobility. If you have a little bit of spare mana, just go for it. If not, don't. That's basically the idea. So that's it in terms of skills. Now let's go over the talents. So for talents, obviously in God of Machines, you want to use the orders for additional summon speed. Here Mighty Guard, and again, if you have the Infinity with Mighty Guard, go for Isomorphic Arms, or all the way around if you have what I have. For Machinist, here you can see all of the talent points. Just scroll over slowly. And here I'm using Boss, which to be honest I don't even, I'm sure if I need it, but to be honest the other ones don't do anything. I actually don't really like Broken Shell, I prefer just regular barrier without it, so I'm just using Boss for now. Here Kinetic Conversion is actually very good for defenses. It is just gonna constantly give you barrier, which is a lot of damage mitigation. If you want a little bit more damage, go for Burning Aggression, but as of right now, I prefer Kinetic Conversion, especially since I was leveling to level 100. This helped me a lot with just farming tier 8s. And by the way, that's how I reached level 100. I was just constantly farming tier 8s without pretty much ever dying. And that's actually mostly thanks to the barrier. Alchemist, here you can see all of the regular points. And here I'm using Empower for even better barrier. And here active super flag, because to be honest the other ones don't give you that much, so just additional recovery is pretty good. Okay, and just a reminder, just to go over the hero traits, I'm just using the regular Surprise Force, Quick Battle, Preparation, Guerrilla Tactics, and for the last one, when I am mapping, I am using the bottom one, so Fuel War with War, because it is disabling the cooldown reduction when you pick up the mechanical parts. And to be honest, I have already a good enough cooldown recovery that, as you can see on my minions, the overload is lasting pretty much all the time. As you can see, only like towards the end for like half a second it's not up, but during mapping you're not gonna notice it that much. But overall, the second one, Meaningful Death, should give you more damage, especially single target. So if you are bossing, swap to this one. And here again, just go for something with minion life, minion damage for bossing, and For mapping, I just go for movement speed. So as the last thing, I just want to give you my opinion on the build and tell you what I'm basically planning to do with it. So first of all, I think this is an amazing starter. Obviously, you're gonna have to buy it because it is only available through shop. You have to pay around $15, but I think it's a very good build so far. One of the best league starters probably as of right now, because you pretty much don't need any gear and you can reach around tier 7, tier 8, and then once you're gonna reach tier 7, tier 8, you're gonna be able to farm currency. And the first big item I would definitely go for is Warden's Breastpin. On the other items, I would start with just getting like tier 3 max life, minion damage, and so on every piece of gear that you can get it. And then once you get the Warden's Breastpin, basically the same things, but also with critical strike damage, and eventually you can craft something like this with everything tier 1. Another good item to upgrade is Might Infusion, and then you want to get both of these things at the same time, Infinity and the Hammer, with pretty much any minion modifiers and anything that is gonna be applied thanks to the isomorphic arms or the Warden's Breastpin. So things like critical strike damage on chance to deal double damage. To be honest, in terms of the weapon, I'm still not too sure what is the best. This is definitely not the best. You can also go for the staff, you can go for wands. There's a lot of choices. To be honest, this build is definitely gonna take a while to solve. There's so many different things with like scaling and so on. People are still not sure how to make the most out of this build, so this is why it's not like super finished guide yet. I'm just talking over what I have right now. I'm not too sure eventually what I'm gonna move on to, and every single day I'm still like learning about this build and what scales it and what doesn't. For example, just today I did learn that the Decayed Mind, which is a ring that most of the people are using on regular Moto, which converts the physical damage to erosion damage, actually does not apply to the explosions, which I didn't know about. So Decayed Mind is actually not doing anything, at least with this modifier. Everything else still applies, obviously, but you're not gonna deal erosion damage with explosions. So yeah, still there's a lot of things to figure out with this build, and once I am actually gonna figure out everything, then I'm gonna make like a full guide what to do, how everything works, and so on. But for now, this setup is definitely good for bossing. I think this character is one of the best bossers, and things like Path of the Brave. I did Path of the Brave level 5. The last boss of wave 45 was actually taking quite a long time to kill, but still I was able to do it. I did Traveler 8, I did 2 Invitations Pirate, I did Uber Kigan, so the only thing that I still haven't done is the 3 Invitations Pirate, which I did try, and I took him down to 50%. So I think with like few small upgrades here and there, I am gonna be able to kill him. But for mapping, obviously it's a little bit of lackluster, but the relic with increased movement speed can help you with that a lot. Or maybe you can just focus more on wands with cooldown reduction for more blink. Or some people are even going for warlock for additional cooldown recovery, or you can go for attack speed for leap attack. It is up to you. Nice thing about this build, there's actually quite a lot of choices what you can go for. As of right now, I'm trying to focus mostly on my defenses and my damage, so I can actually do the endgame bosses. My mobility for me is just a secondary part, but right now I'm just fixing it with my relics. So that's gonna be it in this video. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.